how did you know Deshaun? His last name was Whitaker. Were you guys in a relationship?
That was my husband.
How long have you guys been married?
Um, we've been dating 3 years and married a year now.
Okay. Can you just tell me a bit about what happened Wednesday? I mean, it was any other Wednesday, right? You guys woke up, you were out and about driving. Can you tell me what you guys were up to before everything happened?
He was going to see his mom. He said that he wanted to see his mom, and he ended up pulling up at the smoke shack that was over there because his friend was in the car and said that he needed to go in the store. He didn't see his mom at home, so he said, well, he was just going to smoke with his friend and then we were going to leave.
Mm-hmm. So that friend was in the car when that traffic stop happened. Okay. We know everything that happened after 3:30 from police standpoint. I'm just gonna kind of run through what we know from them. If at any point you're like, that's not what happened, I have a discrepancy with that, feel free to cut me off and explain from your point of view what happened, okay? And I'll ask questions along the way too if that helps. And this isn't live, so if you need a second to like stop and breathe and reword something, totally feel free to do that, okay? So 3:30, you guys are driving around the Newtown Road area. I guess we were gonna go see mom, but mom wasn't home. We had a friend in the car, we were going to Smoke Shack. At what point did you guys realize that you were being stopped by a police officer?
I was in my phone. We were parked right there in front of the smoke shack, and when I looked up from my phone, my husband was getting out the car and tussling with the officer to get away, and I didn't react fast enough, so as I'm getting out, the officer comes back around and tackles me.
Gotcha. So you didn't even realize that there was like a whole thing going on, you were kind of on your phone, and then you noticed Deshaun get out of the car, and that's when kind of a scuffle. What's going through your mind when you see your husband kind of physical with this officer?
I know he gonna get away from the officer,
Yeah.
so I was trying to get away myself.
Gotcha. So what was going through your mind when you made the decision to get up and kind of just walk away and distance yourself?
They were gonna catch me because I didn't really know the area I was in because I'm not really from here. So I was trying to figure out where to go.
Right. Where are you from?
I'm from New York, but I've only been here a couple years.
Gotcha. Have you known Deshaun that whole time?
And I just met him 3 years ago.
Okay. So you're walking away, your husband gets away, the officer comes to detain you or get in contact with you. Tell me what that experience was like. What unfolded there?
I was scared. The officer had put the gun to the back of my head and said if I moved, he was gonna shoot me. If I resisted, he was gonna shoot me. And I was telling him I'm not gonna resist. And when he pulled me over, one of my hands was under my stomach and the other one he had. And he's scraping me against the ground. And I did have a gun on my side. And I didn't touch it at that point or anything, but it was pressing it to me. I saw my husband, I told him run. Because we always told each other if we ever got in trouble, leave the other one. And that's how we kept it. Because at least one of us could still talk to the other if we got locked up. So as I'm kind of struggling with the officer, because at that point I really couldn't breathe or anything, my side was starting to hurt. And I'm telling him I got asthma and I had back problems, so it was starting to hurt really bad. Another gentleman pulls up and tells the officers, you don't have to do her like that, she's not resisting. All he has is the gun to the back of my head. So my husband comes back, and when he came back, I guess my husband was going to grab for his gun that was in the bag he dropped. And he didn't even get to get out of the bag fully, and the officer shot him in the head.
So you watched that happen?
And as when the officer got off me to do that to my husband, I took the gun and I threw it from away from me when they were doing that. And I tried to run at my husband and I was tackled again.
So you guys had a pact where if something were to happen, to leave the other one, and he came back.
He broke it because he didn't want to see me get killed.
So in the police report that we received, the officer says that you were reaching for a gun that you had on yourself. Do you agree with that statement?
No, I didn't reach for it until after my husband got shot. When my husband got shot, and I was trying to tell the officer the whole time I had a gun. When he pushed me down and my shirt came up and he seen the gun, that's when he kept pressing the gun to me and was saying that he would shoot me if I keep moving. I told him, I'm not going to do nothing. It's just you're pressing it to my side. When he got off of me to react to my husband, I threw it. I never pointed it towards the officer or nothing.
When you say Deshaun reached for the gun in his bag, you said he didn't have time to even have it out and you could see it. Okay. Do you think the officer knew that he was reaching for a gun, likely? Okay. So, the moment when you're trying to get to your husband, you're tackled by the same officer or a secondary officer?
It was another, I guess it was a paramedic. She tackled me and said, so you want to pull guns out on an officer, you're dumb. And she kept pressing my face into the dirt at this point because it went from the concrete to the little point where there was a little bit of dirt. She's pressing my face into the dirt and I'm telling her, you're pushing my chest into the end of the curb, you're hurting me. And she would not move. And all I wanted to do was go over there to my husband.
We learned that he does have a child, right? The time frame, obviously he's about 7 years old, so probably, from a previous relationship. How do you think they're reacting to this news? Were you familiar with that child?
His son loved me, and I loved his son. There was been the past 2 years we spent Christmas together. We were supposed to spend Christmas together again this year. I try to be there for his son, but his family doesn't really like me, and his mom hasn't liked me since I was 18. So it's kind of been hard for me to be around without them getting mad at him. So like when it comes to family functions and stuff, I try not to go to, and I try to get him to go to them. But he says I'm his wife, and if they don't want me there, then it's no point in him being there. So it's either we always try to do something with his son by ourselves, or he just doesn't go to events at all. He'd rather go where he's welcome. So like, I went to my family house for Thanksgiving. He came with me because he says he'd rather go where he's welcome, where all of us can be together. And my grandma recently just passed away, so I even said I didn't want to celebrate holidays because she gone, and now he's gone.
I'm sorry about your grandmother as well. It sounds like he was a very loving and welcome person in your life. Why do you think he reacted the way he did? And can you explain the stolen vehicle?
The stolen vehicle was given to us from some people he knew. And it's like I kept telling him to get rid of the car. When I be having bad feelings, I feel something's wrong. And I told him get rid of the car. And he really didn't want to get rid of it. So I got to the point where I was like, well, if you don't get rid of it, then I'm going to leave. Because he already had the car for more than a week. And I'm not dumb. You have a car too long that's stolen, you're going to end up getting in trouble for it. But he didn't want to get rid of it yet.
So you guys have a feeling the car was stolen. He wanted to keep it. You wanted to.
At first, we didn't know the car was stolen because a girl I know from when I was younger, she gave the car to my husband. So we thought it was her car at first. But when I started realizing that I don't think it was her car, was because how the car was. Like, she gave it to us, it was nothing in the car. It was like no trash, nothing in the glove box, nothing. So that's what made me feel like, okay, this car gotta be stolen if there's nothing in it. And she say supposedly it's hers. Because I know me as a female, if I had a car, I would have some change in there, maybe a lip gloss sitting somewhere. That's why I told him he need to get rid of the car.
Your gut instinct was telling you this car's stolen.
That's what I'm saying. I had that feeling.
So, and he, as I'm talking to you, sounds, like I said, a very warm and welcome person in your life. Was it unusual to see him get physical with an officer like that? Like, that sounds like a very big 180. Why do you feel like he felt like he needed to act that way?
Because lately I've been going through a lot, and I have a lot of people that don't like me and been trying to like kill me and stuff. And my husband was around when one person actually put a gun to me. That's the whole reason why he decided to get both of us a gun. Because honestly, people my age, half of us don't make it to 18. As much as I went through as a kid, I was surprised I made it to 18. I'm surprised I made it to 20.
Is this the first time you've been on the other side of a wall like this? I mean, at 20 years old?
I've been behind the wall 17, 18, 19, 20, about to for 21. And it's not even I'm a bad person, it's just I put myself in the wrong positions with people.
It sounds like you have a good gut instinct. You knew that car was stolen, you know? After all said and done, we don't have your husband anymore. There's a court process to go through. What are you telling yourself to try to get through this?
My husband always said, like, he used to joke with me a lot and say, babe, let's take over the world. Go out with a bang. Let's become legends. Leave our mark on the world even when we pass away. So we both had that feeling one of us was going to go down before the other. And my husband, he was the type, people might say it's because he was suicidal, but it wasn't. He was suicidal. My husband said if I ever got killed, he would kill himself just because he didn't want to be around without me. And I ain't gonna lie, that's how I felt about him. Because that was literally my soulmate. He was there when my grandma passed away. He was there when I ain't had nobody. I grew up in foster care. Him, and my mama and my grandma was the only people I had. And me and my mama rarely talk. So I feel like a piece of me was really stripped away again. My grandma was like my mom, my heart. My husband was my heart. They were the reasons I kept pushing and trying to get myself back together. Then both of them are gone.
It sounds like you knew he was reaching for that gun in his bag. What do you think would have happened had he gotten a hold of that gun before the officer noticed him coming back?
A piece of me is telling me he wouldn't have, because my husband, he has a good heart. He don't want to see harm coming to nobody. But the last thing I heard him say was, get off my wife. So at that moment, I knew he was going to do what he had to do to make sure I didn't get shot.
When you have your gun to your back of your head, what are you thinking in that moment? Are you thinking like, I'm not doing anything? Or...
I wasn't moving or nothing because I was scared. I didn't want to lose my life. I still ain't really been able to do nothing. I haven't been able to see my grandma Grace. I ain't been able to have no kids, nothing. I really thought at that moment I was going to lose my life. And all I thought about was him. When he was running, I just kept telling him to run. But he wouldn't leave me.
I did have a couple of other questions. It's, nobody's perfect. We all have a past, obviously, but it sounds like this may be a really pivotal point in your life. You had a gut feeling that the car was stolen. You knew it was bad news. There's somebody else out there who probably has the same gut feeling. You might be tied up in something similar. After going through what you've gone through this past week, what message do you have to somebody else that might find themselves kind of in a similar track?
The world nowadays, we all have to fight to stay alive, especially people my age. Everything going on in Norfolk, so many shootings going on. I see the standpoint of officers trying to protect themselves from getting killed the same way as anybody else out here. But for how my husband died, it could have went a different way. My husband didn't have to get shot in his head. The officer could have shot him in his leg, his foot, his shoulder, anywhere else, so that way he would survive but be disarmed. And for him to put a gun to my head, all I can say is, but me personally, I don't want to be around any officer no more. Something happened, I'm not calling no officer. If God forbid it happened, but if I get raped, I'm not calling no officer. This wrong. Left and right. All the people young, a little older, getting killed over stuff that's not even that worth it. It could have been handled different. Way different.
Once you catch your breath, I know, sorry, this is a really tough conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Anything you feel like you need to get out there while you have the opportunity to?
I just feel like this whole situation is messed up. I didn't get to see my husband. All I got was one last phone call before they brought me up here and said that my husband was officially pronounced dead. I couldn't see him. They telling me that I got the last say-so about what happens to him, but I'm not getting no information. I don't know where my husband's body is. I don't know where his wedding ring is, his necklace, nothing. I'm not getting no information. When I went to the hospital, I got bruises on top of bruises, and I'm in pain. They said they were supposed to give me pain medicine. They did not give it to me at the hospital.
What type of injuries do you have? Do you have any like super visible injuries or bruising and?
My hands was bruised. My whole side is bruised. It's bad, and my back area hurts like crazy. Both my knees straight, but my right knee is the main one that hurt. And then when I got here, when I was downstairs, I didn't get brought up here till 3 a.m. on the 1st. They didn't give me no medicine, nothing. And I told them I was in pain. I haven't slept in 2 days. I take medicine on the outside for my depression and my night terrors. I've already seen one of my brothers get shot in front of me. I've done seen my grandma die in front of me. I stayed there the whole month while she was in the hospital until she passed away. I seen one of my closest friends get shot. And now my husband. That's not something I could come back from. Won't nothing prepare the fact that my husband is gone.
And so you think really for the majority of the police narrative it's correct, except for you say you were not reaching for your gun.
I was not going to shoot that officer. I already knew I was going to go to jail. I didn't want, honestly, if my husband would have kept running, I would have just took every charge. Even if I wasn't driving that car, I would have took everything. Just to know he was okay.
And to your knowledge, your husband never raised his gun towards the officer in that direction?
No.
But he was, to your knowledge, reaching in a bag, you think, to that weapon?
He went to reach in his bag, and the officer had told him, drop the gun. That officer knew what he was grabbing for. The gun was at the front of the car, My husband's body was at the back of the car. My husband was not going to shoot that officer. He dropped that gun instantly when the officer raised his gun to him. And I feel like that was misconduct on that officer for even pressing the gun on my head. He didn't know I had a firearm at first until my shirt was lifted up and I told him I was armed. He had already put that gun to my head. And for him to shoot my husband in the head, I really feel like he took his power a little too much than what it was supposed to be.